Last week, we discussed our top 20 sleepers. Tonight, we're taking you through 40 names that we think you should consider at the latter stages of your fantasy basketball drafts. We're talking late round flyers. Let's go and win some leagues. G'day, guys. I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and joining me is Matty G. How are you, mate?
Mate, good. Just ready to get stuck into some of these late round flyers you prepared. Whenever you say, Matty, do you want to jump on? You don't have to do any preparation whatsoever apart from like your mental preparation notes. I'm like, you've got me intrigued, D-Mac. Where are you taking me on a journey?
Yeah, we like to be surprised, but also it's that raw first-hand emotion as well. Getting your reaction to some of these guys that I've put up as late round flyers. As I said at the top of the show, we looked at our top 20 sleepers and a couple of things. We've had some news coming in over the last few days that have probably slightly changed our thinking around that. We're going to touch on that tonight as well. But let's get into it. We will go through our top 40 guys or 40 guys that we think you should consider at the later stages of your fantasy drafts. We're going to look at the first 20 in part one or episode one of this two-part series. We just wanted to dissect some of the names a little bit longer. So we wanted to just split it into two, Matty G.
Yeah, there's a lot of names that you gave me and I refused to look at until the pod. I got about 6 into it and I'm like, geez, this is deep. And I threw some names out there from our mock drafts as well. A lot of this intel is from us being like, okay, who's still around and where are they going in the last couple of rounds? And also just some curious questions. So I'm really into this. And when you put the list together, I was like, I'm just going to go in like raw dogging and just get to it. But there's some names on here that we should start to pay attention to, especially in deeper formats. And D-Mac, I think that's one thing that, not everyone does some deeper format guys. Like, who's my real dark horses? Mate, we are going deep. So if you are in like 20 teamers and you've got 10, we're talking like 200 players have to be drafted at the end of the day. So we've got this coming up over part one and part two. We've got someone you can look at in your league, no matter what kind of league you're in.
Absolutely. And this is the poster boy for the top 40 flyers. I've probably drafted him in the majority of mock drafts that I've been in. But we're going to start off with the Indiana Pacers. Whilst we're talking about Ajax, we're going to go to his teammate, Jay Huff. I think he probably will start to commence the season. But you look at that ADP, Yahoo 140, ESPN not even with an ADP, which is crazy. And Fantrax at 305, which boggles my mind a little bit because we talk about Fantrax as being hoop heads and guys that are really just in sync with how the rankings and who should be starting and whatnot. But 305 on Fantrax presents huge opportunity there.
It really does. And I think my gut instinct on this one straight away, because I forgot Huffmeister was in this, but to be fair, because for me, he's already like a known about guy because he keeps on being drafted. In industry mock drafts that we do, Jay Huff is going in the like 9th or 10th round. We're going like maybe 11th, and we're going like 12 guys deep. So a couple of rounds to go. People are looking at him beforehand. He's a potential starter, a center who can hit threes. He'll rebound okay. Like he's not the strongest of rebounders, but there's some juice there for this bloke at the end of the day. And the role's his. Like there's just a vacuum in Indiana. And he is the person who's saying, hello, Miles Turner's free spot. Let me take you. Because we know that Isaiah Jackson has been their guy. He's returning from injury. So even if he does come in and start, this is a top 150 player for me. And so to see him not there, the mind boggles a tad.
Yeah, that Fantrax one just really does boggle my mind. But
I think I know what it is, Mac. I've got a question for you. If it's your last pick, second last pick, and you just want to make sure that you know right now, it's not even October, 28th of September, we're recording this. Are you drafting a guy you don't know is not going to play? There's the question. And I think hoop heads don't want to draft this guy early because they don't know his role until we see him in the preseason or they say the word that he's starting. And then you mark my word on this day, watch this bloke's ADP fly up, like just fly like 100 and something spots after 200 spots afterwards to him being drafted in the 120s to 130s, 140s by the time we finish this. That's my hunch.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. I think we've got 3 weeks until opening night. So some preseason games to be had. We'll work out who the starters will be. But whilst we're talking about Jay Huff, now looking at Isaiah Jackson, I just think that, coming off of that Achilles tear, the Pacers organization put a lot of confidence into Ajax. They've given him a 3-year deal, which says that they want him on that team. Do they want him as the starter? Probably remains to be seen, and probably doesn't happen to commence the season. As we said, Jay Huff is in pole position to do so. But as we continue on throughout the season, I could see Isaiah Jackson really taking the mantle from Jay Huff there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's the same thing that we're seeing for Hoopheads over on Fantrax is we are for Jay Huff. People don't know who the starter is. So it's like, I'm not going to take either guy. I'll take this guy because I know, like, I'll take Santi Aldama because I know what the Memphis situation is right now. You know what I mean? So people are going to take a commodity maybe over in their mock drafts. Again, there's 3 weeks out. We need to pay attention to those moves immediately, but that is the kind of juice we're looking for. And you're right, they have given him that 3-year deal. And the reports are that he won't play probably back-to-backs during the beginning of the season, especially. So this opens up more of an opportunity for Jay Huff to be on our radar and on our roster, but Isaiah Jackson to be on our long-term radar for the season.
And Matty, you talk about it often. Just know your league settings. Understand if you've got the IR or the IL slots. And if you've got the IR plus, someone like Isaiah Jackson can be very valuable because you slot him in. Yes, he may have some maintenance and rest days. You slot him in, he could get you, stream you in a couple of blocks a game. He's got that high upside there with his blocking as well. And often we find it difficult to get blocks late in drafts as well.
Yeah, 100%. And this is a guy, I think they've got 13 back-to-backs over the course of the season. So you play him on the first night and then you just let him go. Let's just put your little minnow, just let him catch and release. See you, Ajax, and put him in your IR spot and bring him back and bring someone else into your roster for a day. Just factor that in on your streams for the week.
Exactly. Well, watch this space because maybe things develop over the next 3 weeks where we get a clearer picture on how they're going to play them. But we think that Jay Huff will start and then Isaiah Jackson will get that momentum and maybe even take that starting position later on in the season. More Pacers. TJ McConnell, I know you love him. I've seen you pick him up in a couple of mocks, but in a lot of mocks I've been in, he's going undrafted.
Yeah, look, it's the reason why, because Nembhard is the shiny new toy at the party. TJ McConnell is the little workhorse. He'll always be the little workhorse, but I love my workhorses. You slot in a guy who can ultimately step into a role and come and get me a couple steals a game, 10 points, 6 assists, plus 500 from the floor. Very decent. He's a decent free throw shooter, not elite. Like people think he's not. Like he's not going to get you 850. Yeah, he can, but he's generally not that guy. He doesn't get to the line much anyway. So he's more likely to split a pair for you in a game if you stream him and get to the line twice. And so his average for that game is 500. Now he might hit the next 2, so then it's 750 if that makes sense. So just be buyer beware on that one. But he is an absolute stud for the last round source of assists and steals in your drafts. Big fan of picking him up late, especially in deeper formats. 14 teamers. If you've got 12 people on a roster, this is where we're looking at 14 teams, 12 people on your roster. There's no reason this guy should not be drafted in the last couple of rounds to get a source of what you need late.
And it's interesting, Nembhard is obviously the shiny new toy that everyone's talking about in Halliburton's absence. But we saw when Halliburton has been injured that oftentimes it was TJ McConnell that was really stepping up. And even in that final, in the playoffs as well, he really stepped up when Halliburton was in that final game as well, which was a disaster. But yeah, TJ McConnell played really well. So I could see him having a fantastic season. I'm looking at him in 12 teamers, but like you said, 14 teamers at a bare minimum.
I like to call him Delhi 2.0 because the guy just is that he plays. I remember I was watching an interview with him recently. It was on Old Man of the Three podcast and Young Man of the Three podcast now. Shout out JJ Redick. And he was like, he was told he had to pick up a guy 94 feet from the basket and work harder than everyone else. And that's come his calling card. And it is, and I love it. And he's had a 10-year NBA career because of it. And this is a year that he'll do really, really well. And he was definitely on my radar.
Yep, same for me. Another Pacers guy, probably a little bit higher for me. I've got a feeling that he's going to have a fantastic opportunity on the wing. Aaron Naismith, ADP on Yahoo's 136, ESPN 139, very similar. Fantrax again, 190. He's firmly on my radar for 12 teamers.
Oh, 100%. And maybe I'm higher on him. This is a guy who, at 190, someone said, like, who's going to be the guy? Someone said it to us the other day, like on our Sleepers show. Let's be fair on the feedback. Someone was like, which guy is going to be like Josh Hart and go up 100, or like, a Dyson Daniels and go from like deep down into a top 50 guy. And I'm like, you know how rare that is? And the rareness of it actually for me is that I think Naismith has an opportunity to be, now I'm not going to say he's that guy, but for me, I've got him as a top 100 player on the season. And the fact that he is eclipsing his ADP here by 90 spots, 80 to 90 spots, means that he's a rosterable guy. He is worth a look. Get Aaron Naismith. Just give him a crack. He's a top 100 player in my mind for this year. And I'm not saying like, oh man, he said he's a top 100 player and he came back to be 101st, or he's only 98th. 98 is still top 100. I'm not saying go expecting top 75. Between 75 and 100, he could finish there. And I think we should definitely be keeping him on our radar for it.
100%. And again, he's often going undrafted in the mocks that I've done, but I don't think he should go undrafted in any of those ones. He's just got that 30-minute upside. Obviously, Mathurin is another shiny toy alongside an Empire, but I think Naismith is going under the radar a little bit. Another pacer that's completely under the radar, Obi Toppin. He's coming off the bench, so very much a deep league consideration. Not too deep, 14-teamer and perhaps a 12-teamer, but probably more suited for 14-teamers.
I think he's really come into his own in Indiana, and we saw what he could do down that playoff stretch. He was an absolute spark plug, and he worked really well off Hallie, but he also worked really well as it's just like when they need some instant offense, they can kind of give it to him to be absolutely electric for this team, and he'll get you some rebounds. Like he might get you 5 rebounds a game. He might not get you many defensive stats, but his field goal percentage has crept up from him just taking threes after threes from his first season in Indiana. And I like that for him. He's become more robust in his role off the bench. And he's actually a sleeper for me to be, if they have a good run together, Obi Toppin, for my mind, could be one of these sleepers for 6th man of the year.
Ooh, I like that. Cool. I don't know what the odds are on that. I know we discussed it on our last show about a few guys that could be in contention, even Jordan Clarkson. But yeah, I don't mind that one at all. Yeah, Obi Toppin.
The often undrafted Jordan Clarkson, may one say, in honor of this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, Toppin, I think 14-teamers. I probably wouldn't go as far as to say he's a must-draft guy in a 12-teamer, but 14-teamer, absolutely a consideration. Now, we're going to keep it by and group by teams whilst Matty G's looking up the odds on Obi Toppin. We're going to look at Boston Celtics, keep it in the East. Another guy that I'm high on, and it's a big guy. No surprise here, but Neemias Queta. I don't know how many times I've mentioned his name in the shows that we've done, Matty G, but I feel like he will be the starting center.
The quesadilla. The quesadilla,
Neemias Queta.
The quesadilla. Look, I love a quesadilla and I love Queta. I love words that start with QU, and he's on my list. Look, it's insane that he's at 477. This has got to be another case of like, I'm not touching it until I know. Hoop heads are like, so we're such definite beasts, aren't we? Like, I'm not touching him until I know what the starting five roster is and they do their media day. Look, I think it's Queta, like you said. People are either on the Queta or Boucher bandwagon. So you're either a quesadilla eater or a bandwagon for Boucher guy in Boston for the middle spot.
Speaking of, there you go. Here's Bobby Boucher right here.
There you go. This is the case, brother. This is exactly what we're talking about.
And again, we speak about 3 weeks away. We don't know how it's going to play out, but I've just said I feel like Queta will be the starting center. Chris Boucher could be a smaller ball 5, but he's probably more suited as a power forward. So that flexibility alone just propels Chris Boucher a little bit. I've still got Queta above Boucher, but I don't mind Boucher as well in a 14-teamer and even as a flyer pick in a 12-team league as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these guys are worth a look. And if we get any news whatsoever, if it's Boucher or if it's Queta, they are worth an absolute start and a roster position. Both of them have that upside to be finishing. Again, if you give them the minutes in these teams, they both have the upside to be top 150 players. And they are going undrafted. And again, top 150 is the guys who should be on our radar. I think Queta is the better shout. But again, I'm not the coach of the Celtics. I'm not the front office. I don't know who it's going to be. But for me, that's where it's at. And on that one, by the way, none of them have made the betting odds just for defensive player of the year. But 6th man of the year, I must have been onto something very, very early because Jordan Clarkson's now moved up to third at $11. Just by the way,
There you go.
When I called that out weeks ago, and he was in the 30s or something. I called it way too soon. But if you go down, Obi Toppin is at $41.
It's a shout. It's worthy of a shout.
He is now down, but the cheeky money there is Santi Aldama, 31, by the way. Because if he starts the season and rolls back, he gets a roll. That's just a side note. Cheeky side note to the show.
That could be a home run pick because he'll build that momentum as a starter. We're sort of digressing, but we will touch on Santi Aldama very shortly. Just going back to Chris Boucher. Of course. Chris Boucher, Neemias Queta, a third option. And again, deep leagues. And if we get greater clarity, the three-headed monster of the Boston Celtics, big guys in that front court, Luca Garza, he's another guy that perhaps could have some value in deeper leagues.
Yeah, 100%. Look, this guy is off the radar completely. He's going to probably have a role. Look, the thing is, it's just what does he do as the big man that I don't think that Boucher, like we know that Boucher can block shots. We know that Queta can block shots. I like my big man, especially late, to be able to block shots. So I can see why we're sleeping on Garza a little bit, but he does have more of an ability in that tradition to stretch the floor more than the other. Look, I actually think the other guys can stretch the floor a little bit better. Like Boucher, yes. Quesadilla, no. But
Queta was hitting some threes. I believe he was hitting some threes at Eurobasket. So it's not beyond him.
I'm not going to drink not drinking the Eurobasket Kool-Aid. But for me, these guys, one of them could be one of the MVPs of your fantasy team this season. You could be like, yeah, I drafted them. And again, D-Mac, it's MVP chat time.
Absolutely. And you know the deal, guys. So if you'd like to support the Believe in Fantasy Basketball channel, consider becoming an MVP community member. You'll get access to priority DMs and email responses, exclusive MVP Discord access with all of our experts, including Maddie and myself, and also a private podcast that answers all of your questions weekly. Anything else? Addresses, personal phone numbers?
You can watch me try and squeeze this toy lemon. And try and make lemonade out of it at some future podcast. It will go horribly wrong and be completely and 100% unsuccessful unless I do some trickery with the camera and be like, oh, look, here is the lemonade that I made. And also, we will give the person, if you quote this legitimately, you can just tell us 3 times over the course of the season, you can message D-Mac and I in one of our videos, put a screenshot in of your week in your team, and we will personally help you with an ad. We'll just jump in and be like, we'll just make the ads for you. Just give us your account. We'll sign in and make some ads for you. There we go. This is how dedicated we are to helping you in and be the MVP and the winner of your league.
I think we're the masters of segues as well, but make sure that you visit believeinfantasy.com for all of that good stuff. Now, getting back to it, Matty G. So we spoke about Queta, your Quesadilla, Boucher, Luca Garza. Just a word of warning with Luca Garza, we're not saying you must draft him in a 14 or a 16 teamer, but let's just keep an eye on things over the next 3 weeks. We'll get into preseason. Let's see what his role is in the rotation because it's just a consideration and perhaps he just propels himself into that starting role. I don't think it's likely. It's probably the most unlikely scenario, but if it does happen, make sure Luca Garza is on your radar.
Yeah, 100%. And again, this is where Garza's on the radar for you and a Boucher who's been frequently injured at times or the Quesadilla, Queta, Queta. It sounds like Queta. If the big names goes down injured, there's going to be a backup role for him. So this is where he becomes a viable streaming option, especially in deeper formats. And we want to keep our eyes on rotations like that and what the impact of injuries can be.
I've just got Poiter in my head and Eric Banner. Shout out Eric Banner. But yeah, that was great growing up here in Australia. Another Celtics guy, Sam Hauser. You mentioned him in our sleepers.
Yeah.
He did come up as one of our sleepers, but I've still put him in as a flyer because look at that Fantrax ADP of 466. That's silly. So for me, that's a flyer. And to be honest, he's a 12-teamer. I honestly think if you need the source of threes, you're struggling with threes, Sam Hauser is going to be one of the easy top 10 3-point shooters in the league this season.
And I think it's because we're also off the fact that Like, he doesn't do much else in the way of assists. His field goal percentage is probably sub 450. He has an excellent free throw stroke, by the way. Like, this guy is a plus 850, 900 free throw shooter. Like, if he could get to the line more in a team instead of like maybe twice a game, really nice little bump in your averages there. I think he gets slept on because we do say that on the waiver wire, it's really easy to pick up threes. I don't think it's easy to pick up minutes. So there's a big difference when we talk about like, oh, it's really easy. It's not easy to get a guy off your waiver wire who's going to play between 20, let's say 5 and 30 minutes on average a night. He could be getting you 3 threes, 12 points a night, 4 rebounds. Maybe he drops in a couple of assists. Now, that's a really decent stat line that you can have permanently on your roster, continually chipping in. He could be a league leader in 3 points made by the end of this season. Not by the end of it, not league leader, but let's just say league in the conversation as one of the best 3-point shooters. I think he's probably the best 3-point shooter on the Celtics. And it's probably going to be Peyton Pritchard and Derek White shooting down most of them because they have a majority of the minutes. But there'll be nights where you see Sam Hauser. I guarantee you this year, like, Sam Hauser got how many threes? He'll be dropping down 6 or 7 threes a game on the regular this season. He'll go probably and have some horrible runs, but he is definitely on my 12-team radar. 14 teamers, he's a must. And the only reason he didn't make my roster on that industry mock draft we did is because we were only picking 14 teams to 10 rounds, and he was in my queue for the next round had we come back. So he will be featured on the Best of the Rest podcast this week.
Absolutely. And he could be a sneaky shout for 3-point contest at the All-Star weekend as well. But yeah, keep an eye on that. Former Boston Celtic, Jrue Holiday. We had some news this week around Scoot Henderson. Jrue Holiday, I know he's a favorite of yours. Yeah. I picked him up in another mock that I did, I think this morning as well. Loving it. It's just solidified. Unfortunately for Scoot, it solidified Jrue Holiday's starting role and his minutes as well, particularly at the start of the season.
Yeah, welcome to Matty G Island, where we're all encompassing here. We're like the Maldives. I can give you a private villa on Jrue Holiday's pontoon down to the back where you can just jump into the ocean. That is the goodness of value that he will provide. Now, the Scoot Henderson news, we don't like it when players are injured. Obviously, it's never a great thing, but the thing that I don't like about it is where I was sneaking in and taking Jrue Holiday at ridiculous places in drafts, and you've been with me laughing when I'm taking him at like 150, 160. Like, we're talking last round Jrue Holiday here. This bloke has now gone up, so he's going to get more attention. I don't like it. I mean, he's going to obviously be now drafted and scooped up because of that vacuum in Portland, but the fact that he was going in some leagues undrafted was, I'm just going to say, absolute fantasy sacrilege.
I completely agree, but exploit it, make the most of it. The ADP, if people are just purely looking at ADP and people will sort, they're in the draft room and they're sorting, go, I've got 30 seconds to make a pick. I'm going to sort by ADP and pick based off that. They're not going to scroll down to your Fantrax 175 and see Jrue Holiday there. So exploit that situation. Go into your draft knowing that he's a 12-teamer, no question about it.
Yeah, definitely in that top 100 between 75 and 100 on the year zone. And the fact that he is going undrafted outside the 150, this is like 4 rounds of value immediately for Jrue Holiday. Love it.
Yep. And some other news that happened this week as well that has significantly impacted Reed Shepherd's value. We heard about Freddie VanVleet. Again, very unfortunate. He will miss the entire season, but that has propelled Reed Shepherd into conversations around must draft in a 12-teamer. He's definitely moving up that draft board. But again, the ADP, it does take a bit of time to reflect that. Obviously, there's a whole heap of data already. So it would take some seismic changes in a lot of these mocks and real drafts to really shift that. But 554 in Fantrax is crazy. And again, similar situation with Jrue. People may only be sorting by ADP when they're in the draft room.
And I think that he gets a lot of attention right now because of, but who is it? Because it's the Houston Rockets. And there's also talk of a trade. So I'm just cool. My Jets are completely cooled on Reed Shepherd because if they really want to push in with an aging superstar like Kevin Durant, the Rockets, I think, actually have to trade for someone. I legitimately think they need to trade for someone. I think they need to trade for an available point guard out there because they need someone who can direct the floor with someone like Kevin Durant, and I don't know if it's going to be a guy like Reed Shepherd, who we barely saw exist in the rotation last year. That's a really big key thing. Now, he's immediately a must-draft player. He's immediately maybe a top 120 player because of the opportunity provided to him. But just expect the exact same thing that you expected from Fred VanVleet. Shocking field goal percentage. So don't go out there just because you think he's the shooter. He's the shooter. He very well could be the very best, apart from KD, obviously, 3-point shooter on Houston, because that was their biggest problem last year. Their biggest problem was 3-point shooting. I know that, oh, yeah, but what are you talking Şengün at Eurobasket? Okay, let's just not drink the Eurobasket Kool-Aid completely. Jabari Smith Jr., he can stretch the floor 100%. But if it's not KD knocking down like 3 threes a game, it's going to be Reed Shepherd. And they need that, but he's still young. And so putting the weight of that on, I'm not going into the top 100 for him, which is I've started to see him go a couple of times in the 90s. And that's where I'm like, it's too much. But if he's falling to you, just that early, I've got to get Reed Shepherd. Oh, I've got to get Reed Shepherd. People tell me I've got to get Reed Shepherd. You don't need to get Reed Shepherd in the 90s. You need to be picking up Reed Shepherd in your 120s, 130s when he's still sitting there. And then hopefully he can return you some value come draft day, D-Mac.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point. You get that value. Look at the ADP. He should drop in most situations unless you're in a league that is ultra competitive, very knowledgeable. And it's not always the case. Unless you're in an industry mock or an industry draft, it's not always the case. But exploit it again, exploit that ADP. But I think Reed definitely has the trajectory to be a very good NBA player. We saw flashes last season. There are a couple of games where he absolutely went off. He's obviously done that in Summer League, but Summer League is a completely different kettle of fish. But make sure that he is on your draft radar. Now, another guy that it's firmly on your draft radar, and he's probably been taken a fair bit. Those that are used to Yahoo and ESPN drafting, very popular pick, Kevin Porter Jr. But again, it's Fantrax. There's some value on Fantrax. 179 indicates he's not being drafted in a 12-team league.
And shout out to Josh Lloyd, you savage. We've been in one of the most sweaty mock drafts over the past, 3 days, 4 days? We did this slow mock draft. And it's kind of like, we paused it overnight, then we started up, and this overnight is a whole contingency-based thing from where you are in the world. And this was the final round day. And I didn't know if I initially wanted to, and we'll cover this when we come to the podcast for it. So make sure you check that out. We'll put the link down in the description of this one below over the course of the week. Everyone's really high on this guy, and I'm high on him too. Now, I'm not expecting the sun and the moon and the stars for KPJ, but I'm expecting him to be a draftable player. And if you can get him in your last round, second last round, which is what's indicating in Fantrax you can, he is a must-draft guy. He could probably get you a cheeky, like maybe 4 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game, definitely a steal, definitely like a 3. He's not a big 3-point shooter. That's the big thing with KPJ. He's very much a driving, attacking like player. So he might get you 2 threes a game. He's got a very good free throw. He gets to the line a little bit. So he could be expected to be there like maybe 4 or 5 times a game, which is
It's funny that you say that, because it wasn't that long ago when he was in Houston, we said that he's going to kill your free throw percentage. He's going to kill your field goal percentage. He's developed a little bit more efficiency in his time at Milwaukee.
He really has. And he developed that in the Clippers. He started to show a little bit of that when he was getting a bit of run there. Obviously, his issues where he was away from the NBA. And so we've kind of just put that version of him in the past. But he still, I believe, will be the incumbent point guard. The Milwaukee media are really high on him as well. Like, they're touting him as their guy. And we start to look down the list, and the other guys there are other point guards like Ryan Rollins, who I know is on the list. You could go to that slide. I'm spilling the tea because he was one of the names that I saw that stood out. In deeper leagues, this guy, we've seen him get a bit of a run last year where we were picking up Ryan Rollins in our league. So if anything does happen to KPJ over the course of the year, then he can become, because we've also got then Cole Anthony. So you've got this triumvirate of point guards here. So who is the primary backup? Your job as the primary backup or lead guard is to pass the ball to Giannis, who is going to be near the basket, who will be able to dunk the ball if you create space and penetrate and dunk and drive to him. That's your job. It's not a hard job to do. And I think that they've got a little bit of spacing issue in this team, but all 3 of these guys who I know you've got, what's your order here? My order is KPJ. I'm
Yes.
probably just picking up. I'm probably picking up Cole Anthony second, just for the
Yes.
fact that he's a bit more of a veteran presence. But I like the upside shot of Ryan Rollins down the stretch of the season. If anything happens to either of those guys, a heck of a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that order. KPJ for sure should be picked up in 12 teamers. Cole Anthony, I was hot on coming into this season because
Yeah.
we thought maybe it could be him starting. He just needed that
Yeah.
opportunity away from the Orlando Magic. But it does look like KPJ's just got the edge on him at this stage. But things could change. And Cole
Yeah.
Anthony, we have seen him just when he has had higher usage, he is a very effective player, a top 100, even a top 80 type of guy. Gets you a good source of points and threes as well, some sneaky steals. He's athletic for a shorter guy as well. So he's just good to watch. So he may be
Yeah.
getting the fans to the stadium in Milwaukee. But yeah, keep an eye out on that situation. Similar to what we were saying with the Boston big man situation, keep an eye out for those three players in Boston. Keep an eye out for these three guards as well in Milwaukee. But like we said, KPJ first, Cole Anthony second, and Ryan Rollins as the real flyer pick in deeper leagues.
Yeah, 100%. And also shout out to my homeboy, Gary Trent. Shout out to Gaza. I just like to use the word Gaza, another Weta, an Australian saying. Gary Trent, undrafted, worth, especially in deeper leagues, top one, like fringe top 150 guy. If you were drafting 200 deep, Gary Trent is completely off the radar and the rails in drafts. This is a guy who's going to be able to get you like 2.5 threes, 12 points a game. He does it on generally, like his efficiency is not that great, but he'll get you an assist and he'll get you a steal a game. So his counting stats, like getting you a couple of assists, and definitely like this guy's a guy who was like a little bit of a defensive prowess that we were looking to like get in our leagues a couple of years ago for like 1.5, 2 steals a game. He can still get you that. He can still get you a steal a game and also do what he does. And he's going to be averaging about 30 minutes a night almost. So he's on my he's on my deeper league radar because no one's touching him right now and quite often left.
Yep, absolutely. Now we've got 6 more names that we want to discuss in this 20 that we're looking at today. DeAndre Hunter.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, I know he's a favorite of yours. He's obviously got the boost. Max Strus will be out for a while for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Strus boost. Can you say that
The
3 times
Strus
fast?
boost. The Strus boost. Yeah, I can't. DeAndre Hunter is just, I think he will start. And he's just a fantastic source of points, decent for threes, and he is efficient.
Yeah, he's a plus 450 guy. He's also getting to the line about 2-3 times a game. Let's just say he gets to the free throw line 3 times a game. He's a plus 800 guy, and that is a guy who can just raise your averages up a little bit. I can see him getting about 5 rebounds a game, get you a couple of assists, maybe not really his thing, but he is definitely like, hey, DeAndre, can you stand over there? Especially for the attacking guards of Garland when he returns. Definitely Donovan Mitchell, who we know is a very electric guy who loves to get to the free throws. He'll lead the team in free throw attempts because he is Don Mitchell. He'll either isolate and pull up and get there, or he will drive and kick, opening up those opportunities for the guys who are on the fringe, like the Lonzo Balls, who's another guy I'm assuming that's on this list. I didn't know this. Is Lonzo Ball on this? Is he in your Cleveland Cavaliers?
Lonzo Ball is in this, but he's actually in our, I'll bring him up anyway. He was going to be in our second part, but I'm going to bring him up early. Let's talk about Lonzo Ball.
Because he's in there too. Like Lonzo's another guy who just has to do the jobs, and especially the early season bub with Darius Garland, who I know that you love and you've been picking up in drafts at a cheap discount rate because of how long he's out. Well, Lonzo Ball's still going to be there, and they brought him in, by the way. Like Garland's going to be out maybe 2-3 weeks. Let's just say that way. Strus is out for a lot longer. So the Hunter bump is a longer bump. But Lonzo Ball has a role about 25 minutes a game for this team this year, I believe. And just look at him as like your Alex Caruso type if he can stay healthy. We want him to be healthy. This guy was barely walking a couple of years ago. The fact that he is back in the NBA was incredible. And what we saw him do in Chicago just before he was injured is exactly what we wanted to see this bloke unlocked with. Now, obviously, after the injury, he is not that, but the Cavs are going to give him every opportunity to have him play the work and play and do the role that he was born to play, which is work hard, play defense, get you some steals a game. You've got to get that on your radar in the last couple of rounds. He can get you 1.52 steals a game. His efficiency won't be that great, but we love what he does by way of counting stats, some rebounds, some assists for a big man, and definitely just those defensive stats late. We're all for that.
Yep. And if it is your last pick of a 12-teamer, there is no risk. Yes, if he does sit certain games, there's a real low risk. And we often talk about the last 2 guys, last 3 guys. You're going to cycle through those guys anyway. Lonzo Ball is going to get you off to a nice start whilst, like you said, Darius Garland is sidelined. So Lonzo Ball is another guy that we love from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we mentioned this guy earlier, Santi Aldama. He had to be on this list just with the plethora of injuries in that front court for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's just going up draft boards here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a rant about Santi Aldama, which is funny. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Santi Aldama, Santi Aldama, Santi Aldama," and I'm like, "Yes, this is true." And everyone's like, "What's going on in Memphis? All of their backcourt and Brandon Clark is dead. All of a sudden, he's got an injury, like his foot. He's got an injured knee that he's coming back." Look, to be real, the truth of the matter is that everyone's talking like these are season-ending injuries for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey and Brandon Clark. And the truth of the matter is they're not. The truth of the matter is I don't think we see them missing any more than, let's just say for the worst case ones here, like Brandon Clark and Zach Edey, 20 games. Now, that means 4 to 5 weeks because they're okay to ramp up basketball activities in 6 to 8 weeks, and we're 3 weeks out. So the very front of that timeline is 6 weeks. That's 3 weeks into the season. The back of that, and this is, by the way, back to like ramping up as in playing games. So when they say 6 to 8 weeks, like they'll be back on the court playing ball within 6 to 8 weeks, because when you're ramping up, you're doing basketball activities. So we can't read the injury report like when you're not doing this. And this is what we need to be really careful about. We say, oh, they're injured. Yeah, but how injured? What's the injury timeline that we're looking at? So if we jump on the Santi Aldama train, like, oh, he's going to be great. He's going to be their sixth man of the year, like 100%. But you are getting the boost right now for him for no more than 3 or 4 fantasy weeks tops. And at the end of the day, that's 1/5 of your fantasy season. So what pick are you going to expel on Santi Aldama, who's probably a 120-ish player? Maybe 120, like he's in the top 140. He's not like maybe D-Mac at best on the year. If you're jumping to take him in the 80s and 90s because of the hype and how much run he's going to get for the beginning of your season, you are just sucking out every little bit of value you can get for him on your draft board. So this is where we don't touch Santi Aldama. But if he is dropping to you in the like around his where he'll finish for the season at 120, like you can see at Yahoo and 122 on ESPN, sure. But this fan tracks data is going to change really quickly. So just be mindful when you're going into that and drafting that you don't do that at the sake of, because Jaren Jackson Jr. can be back within 3 weeks of the basketball season. And that's going to be the main guy who takes these minutes away straight away, is going to be Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, we saw Santi Aldama get off to a hot start at the start of last season. He's going to do it again. But like you said, JJJ, I almost expect him to be back after just a week of the season starting. Yeah. I've still picked JJJ up. Side note, JJJ has come at a discount, which is quite crazy. I think I picked him up in the 40s, fourth or fifth round
in the fourth round the other day. Yeah.
Yeah,
like, which is the thing. And this is the opposite of that value. Like, okay, don't over-index Santi. Under-index, keep on doing it, people. Keep on letting them slide to guys like D-Mac and I. And we'll be like, oh, I can just stash Jaren Jackson Jr. into my IR spot off my draft for 3 weeks of the season. He's a potential top 25 player. Sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
Santi's still someone that we should be considering, but like you said, Matty G, don't overdraft Santi Aldama, but I still think he belongs on 12-team rosters. Now, home stretch, we're going to look at a few Utah Jazz guys, and we've preached about we're not being negative, but we are just not high on Larry Markkinen and Walker Kessler. It's just plain and simple that they will be tanking again this season. Therefore, those guys will be having a lot of rest days. Hence, there is some real value for the likes of Kyle Filipowski and a few others that we're going to speak about shortly. Kyle Filipowski finished last season as almost a league winner for some people. He was amazing.
Yeah, look, I'm a big fan. I just picked him up in the second last round of that industry mock draft we talked about, the 14er. Someone who is both power forward and center eligible. He's just going to get some run, I feel, this year. The contract situation with Walker Kessler was the big tell for me this week. Now, the Utah, this is because it's completely not Kyle Filipowski related. It's organizational related. And I don't know what it's ever been with Utah and Walker Kessler. They drafted him high. They indicated that he wanted to. He played on that Team USA shenanigans thing. Like he was like looking up. He's been much maligned and injured. He's been a top 50 fantasy player. but they haven't given him a contract. So he's now going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. So instead of tying him up, they're very okay to see what comes back for him and have someone throw an offer at Walker Kessler. And then do they match that offer sheet or not? They're going to have the rights to that. And my theory is that the Kyle Filipowski is their ace up the sleeve here. They're like, okay, well, we're going with this young other side. We've got Yusuf Nurkic of all people in the bloody background. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that his Walker Kessler's value is dinted a lot, but I can see that he rests, and I can see him possibly playing power forward some, but I can definitely see a way where Filipowski is playing about 25 to 28 minutes a night. And in that, to get a lot of rebounds, that field goal percentage late, to be scoring points, shooting threes, he just offers a lot. And that late in the draft, I get it. But I'm very curious if Kessler's going to be on the Jazz next season, 100%.
That Jazz rotation is also very interesting. The next guy that we're going to look at is part of that rotation, coming back from a long-term injury. But Taylor Hendricks, how does he fit in? We saw at the start of last season, he played, I think, 1 or 2 games until he got that season-ending injury. But he started. He started at power forward alongside Walker Kessler, and he looked good. He did look good, and he was one of their, I guess, sleeper picks or one of these late-round guys that we thought we needed last season. He's under the radar again, and that's probably because he is coming off of that long-term injury and also the rise of Filipowski.
Yeah, 100, and that's exactly it. The rise of Filipowski, but who's also not risen enough because people are like, oh, maybe after Eurobasket, the Finnish god himself, Thor's mighty hammer, Lauri Markkanen, is starting to go back up draft boards all of a sudden after being down on draft boards. So there is a little bit of that, but there is a power vacuum at Utah, and I love some of their guys. I know another guy on your list is Bryce Sensabaugh. He's on your list as one of the guys for him. Yep. But we've got other guys like Ace Bailey. Let's see what the Rook, if the Rook can cook. He's also point guard, shooting guard, and small forward eligible, which is something that I'm really into. So I'm open to taking a last minute flyer on Ace Bailey. But one of my other favorite guys is Isaiah Collier. Like, just because he's going to be probably there starting like a starting guard or a backup point guard for these guys and getting you 6 assists a game is really hard late. He's going to get you a steal or 2 a game as well, which is also really nice little picking. So he's on my radar in deep leagues, especially as the last round point guard in those punt points builds or punt free throw builds. He is especially, like, if you've got Giannis, this is a guy that you should be like just circling on your piece of paper. Write down Isaiah Collier. He's the perfect cherry on like a Giannis build Sunday. Me.
Collier's running mate last season was Keontae George as well. So interesting to get your thoughts on Keontae. I think he's obviously being drafted a little bit higher than Isaiah Collier, but I still feel like he's going under the radar.
Yeah, he is. And I think it's because he doesn't have a very, like, his efficiency really hurts him. His turnovers hurt him. His youth hurts him. And I do like Keontae. Like, we've seen some really lovely flashes of the guy. So in those punt field goal percentage builds, the opposite of the Giannis build, this is the guy you would rather take because he'll probably score you more points a game. He loves to shoot the three a lot more than Isaiah Collier, who's not much of a three-point shooter. So people who want points and threes will love a guy like Keontae George, but someone who likes stout defense and the assist will probably prefer the Collier option. So this is a punt by choice connection. But again, you're not going to get guys like this too late who are going to be giving you, like, for Keontae George, last pick of your draft, 15 points a game, 5 assists. You kind of need that at some point because of how scarce points get around that point of the draft. So I see the bump that he gets there especially.
That's it for our first 20 that we're going to go through. Another episode is going to come up, part 2. We'll look at another 20 names that you should consider. We probably went through about 23 names in total discussion, but yeah, there's a lot to unravel.
Free dimes. You're not going to get that extra. You're not going to get that much free advice late in your drafts or your podcasts unless you're looking into this one. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. And it comes free as well. Thank you, Matty G. Make sure you follow us as well. Matty G at NBA G Wiz, myself at NBA Fantasy Bible. Make sure you follow Believe in Fantasy. So check out the playlists on that channel on YouTube. There's mock drafts, there's rankings, there's a lot of us, there's a lot of Robin. So make sure you go and check that out. Matty, until next time, thanks, mate.
Always.